Under a heads of agreement between the Australian and New South Wales Government, the Gaini Nimikara project was formed.
In June 2013, the Australian Government provided $120 million to the New South Wales Government so that they could purchase water entitlements and land from 11 property holders in the New South Wales Balranald Hay area, and from that became the Nimikara project.
Of that 85,000 hectares, 10,000 hectares is very environmentally sensitive land, and some 380,000 megalitres of water being returned to the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder.
Gaini Nimikara is one of the best examples of a Commonwealth partnership with the states to rehabilitate a really important part of the landscape.
The Gaini Nimikara wetlands are a vast area of lignum floodplain that stretches from near Maud to close to Balranald, adjoining Yanga National Park.
The area is a significant area because it is the confluence of the Lachlan, the Murrumbidgee and Murray rivers, and it's commonly known as the Low Bidgee.
Traditionally, this area of the landscape was an anabranching system off the Murrumbidgee River and used to carry flood flows across the landscape. And part of this project is being able to restore those flows through that part of the landscape, through the anabranching creeks, and allowing it to reconnect with the river further down in the landscape. We found that that's really important because we've noticed that fish breed, especially golden perch, are breeding on the back of some of those flood flows. Part of the project will give us the capacity to be able to then move fish that have bred in those creeks and wetlands back into the river system so that they can survive into future years.
The Australian and New South Wales Government provided an additional $52 million towards the project to protect and restore the local environment, including Aboriginal cultural items and artefacts on the site, and allow improved coordination of watering events, including the Commonwealth Environmental Watering and floods going through the property.
The Department of Industry undertook a tender to divest its interests of the land. The important component of that is it wasn't just about becoming a national park again, but this is all about a new ownership whereby a private landholder would incorporate Aboriginal peoples on the land to manage the property. It also required people to be able to invest time in the environment, and it also required people to be involved in operations of the Land and Water Management Plan. The tender was won by a consortium of the Nature Conservancy, the Nurri Nurri Tribal Council, the Murray-Darling Wetlands Working Group and the University of New South Wales. Combined, they all have the ability to meet the requirements of our heads of agreement, the Land and Water Management Plan and any regulations that govern the way this property should be managed. Part of the Land and Water Management Plan is what we call a MERI component, Monitoring, Evaluation, Reporting and Improvement Plan. The plan sets the tone for how this property is to be managed and monitored in perpetuity.
This landscape is highly cultural significance. It ranges from your burial sites to your scar trees to your shell middens to your massive sweeping bends on the river and your lakes, your high ridges, your old ancient watercourses that flow through the floodplain, old creek lines that's full of billabong swamps.
For thousands of years, this area has been important to the Nurri Nurri people. This area has an abundance of wildlife that was sustainably harvested for a food source for the Nurri Nurri people. Scattered throughout this area are a number of different highly significant sites that need to be protected for future generations.
The infrastructure that's been constructed and upgraded in the Nimikara project gives us, as environmental water managers, the ability to efficiently target core wetland areas or to spread environmental water to thousands of hectares of floodplain. Additionally, it gives us the ability to run large flows through into Tala Lake and south into Yanga National Park.
There has been important rookeries out there that people have known about for decades. This is a fantastic project, over 85,000 hectares, that allows the reconnection of some of those pathways to then benefit birds and fish and frogs in the area with very efficient use of environmental water in the landscape.
These new lay-flat gates in these large regulators in the Gayeni-Nimikara wetlands give us the ability to not only manage water quality in the rookery areas and preset water levels when we have birds breeding, but also they maximise native fish passage opportunities through the Gayeni-Nimikara wetlands into Yanga National Park and eventually back to the Murrumbidgee River.
To achieve the Heads of Agreement, we had two major construction contracts, a $20 million contract for the water infrastructure modification works and a $10 million contract for a stock and domestic pipeline system.
One of our project goals was to develop more efficient infrastructure to ensure that we could move this water through the landscape from up at the Murrumbidgee, Nimi Creek offtake, right through to the Yanga National Park.
It's a large and complex project, and it has involved one of the largest land and water packages by the Commonwealth and then years of work.
Now we have efficiently conveyed water through 400 kilometres of pipeline, some 113 troughs and 140 tanks throughout the property. The water can now supply all stock and domestic needs instead of being supplied through open canals and into farm dams.
Contractors needed to show their ability to work within a very narrow environmental footprint and have a keen awareness and eye for Aboriginal cultural heritage.
Gayeni-Nimikara will play host to some First Nations youth through a health program, sort of rehabilitation, early intervention sort of program we want to get off the ground here, training them up and skilling them. We have a big chance of sharing and enhancing and protecting our culture, the environment. Also, we have a big chance to share this beautiful big landscape with all First Nations people, and the opportunities that will arise from this country are endless.